Every once in a while, you get asked to do a special dish for a special occasion. And we're in a carnival here in Lower Alabama. And it turns out that I have a special friend who is turning 50 years of age. His birthday was on Mardi Gras. So he asked for a special seafood terrine, and I'm going to prepare that today. So my first process is going to be to puree the shrimp. And you want to take a look at this, Madam Photographer. This is half a pound of shrimp. This is fresh from Bon Secours, Alabama. If you're not using bay shrimp, I'm not even sure I'd spend the time to put this together. It is that good. Our shrimp are that terrific. The blade for the food processor has been in the freezer, so it is icy cold. I'm putting in the shrimp. I'm also going to add the white of 1 egg. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to add a healthy pinch of salt, and I may increase that later. And then I'm going to
You're pulsing and adding the cream?
It is on, and I added about half of the cream. And let me tell you about this cream. I had to make this a day in advance just because I needed to get it cold again. And you take the cream, you put it in a saucepan, you bring it up essentially to a boil, and you instantly take it off of the fire and drop in, a 1/4 teaspoon of saffron. You let that steep for 20 minutes or so, and then you basically put it through a sieve, remove the saffron, and then this must be cold. It adds a little flavor, and I just think it's beautiful. Now we've got about another 15 seconds left in this terrine, in this blending part, and I'm going to add the rest of the cream during that period. So here we go. Okay, so let me grab a spatula. I want to make sure that it's got the texture that I want. And it has. So at this point,
Shall we look? Can we see the texture?
Absolutely. Please take a peek.
So kind of like a paste?
Yep, it is very much a paste. I want to be able to basically slap it into the bottom of the terrine. I am going to slap it, by the way, because I'm trying to remove any air pockets in the bottom of the mold, because this is actually going to be removed from the mold in order to be served. If I were going to serve it in the terrine, which, by the way, is Le Creuset, it's a fabulous piece of equipment. I think their stuff is great. It's a beautiful mold, but this is special enough that I think the presentation is going to be fabulous. So let me grab a bowl, and then we'll fold in the rest of the ingredients. Moving our shrimp mixture from the Cuisinart. As you can see, the bowl is very cold. I do this because it helps keep the fat suspended, and that's something that we want to do. I should also note that this is just a slight variation on a recipe that was put out by Le Creuset. Mike Ruhlman, who I think you all know I admire greatly, performed this, and he basically gave me the confidence to be able to give it a shot of doing it myself. He was right, and it really is just a delicious finished product. So I got most of that off the plate. I'm going to just hold that here. So once I get this all into the bowl, I'm going to bring out the products that are going to be just folded into this fabulous mixture. And when I say bring them out, they're in the refrigerator because we want them cold. We want to hold as much of the butterfat from the cream in suspension as this cooks as possible. So that's where we are. And nothing to it. So let me grab the ingredients and I'll be right back. So we're back. I pulled all of the ingredients out of the refrigerator, and sweetie, would you step up here? This is a 1/4 pound of the tiny scallops that I mentioned. This is a 1/4 pound of freshly picked local crab. This is half a leek, just the white part, and I sauteed it, chopped it. And this is about 1/8 of a cup of chives. So what I'm going to do is just fold the seafood, just basically fold it all in. And once I do that, I'll gauge whether I think it's still cold enough. But there's nothing difficult about this. It does sound intimidating, doesn't it? I mean, it did to me. Then I'm going to add the crab meat. So this, as you can imagine, just turns into this wonderful, very rich mixture. And I suppose it is rich. Yeah. Gosh, that stuff is so good. When you put it all together, we'll end up preparing a little aioli of some kind, maybe put some shallots in it. Just a little bit of acid to help cut this. Now I'm going to fold in the leeks. So there's an onion component, and it's got that little sweet element, which I really enjoy, and it really does come through in this particular terrine.
You seem to be adding that a bit at a time.
I'm adding about half of it. I want to make sure that it gets fairly uniformly distributed. At the same time, I don't want to mix this up too much because I don't want it to get hot. So that's absolutely right, about half at a time. And finally, it's another little onion element, the chives, which again I just chopped. And I do like the flavor of chives, but it also adds some I think it adds beauty to the dish. So once I get this into the terrine, I'm actually going to take a moment here, and I'm going to taste this before I do that. So I will be putting this into the refrigerator, just again to keep it cold. But I want to taste the mixture. This is my last chance to alter any seasoning, and as I think you noted, the only seasoning I've added to this is salt. The rest of it is going to be basically the natural flavor of the fish and the onions. So I'm going to grab a spoon. I need to heat up the stove just to taste it. And let me do that, and I'll get back to you once we're sure that the seasoning is right. So Trudy, my director, suggests that maybe this is important just to provide y'all to see. I'm just going to take a little bit of this product, and I'm going to drop it into a little saute pan. And again, I'm confident of the texture, so I'm less concerned about this getting a face on it or changing the texture, because I know how it's going to turn out. This, I just want to taste the seasoning. So it's going to be simple. I'll turn this over, and then we'll both take a taste, and I'll adjust the salt level as necessary. So our little sample is prepared. Let's turn off the heat. I'm going to bring it over. And as you can see, I've just put a little face on it, and this has probably taken, I don't know, maybe a minute and 20 seconds. And I just want to check this for seasoning. Oh, I got a nice little piece of scallop in there too. Okay. Well, the seasoning is perfect. And a little bit of onion comes through. It's sweet. And there's that little hint of the chew from the crab. This is going to be good. Let's get it in the terrine and get it to cooking. I wanted to inform you about this Terrine vessel. This is made by a company called Le Creuset. This is a very high-end one. It's very high quality. These are available in the same size. This is about, I'm guessing 3/4 of a quart. They have them that are larger loaf pans. It's 1.5 quart, and Le Creuset sells them too. This is just a lovely vessel, but others that are less expensive will do a good job for you too. Point is, you don't have to have this brand. Now what I'm doing, you may notice that we have saran wrap that's draped over this. I am going to take the mixture, I'm going to put it inside, and I want the saran between the actual vessel itself and our mixture because I'm going to remove this, meaning I'm not going to be serving our shrimp terrine in this mold. We're going to be inverting it, putting it on a plate, probably sprinkling a few more chives on it and that kind of thing. But the whole purpose of this is to make it easy to remove.
Can you describe how you line the terrine?
That would be a function of the key grip. I'll have to tell you, everybody, I have struggled. My hands just don't want to do it. So I'm working on this. My wife, who is behind the camera, actually takes care of the lining of the terrine at this point. I can put on the lid, though, once I get the stuff in. So the shrimp mixture is out. I'm going to put it in the terrine. I've gotten a larger, a little more firm spatula, and I really am going to try and push that down in the corners just so I don't have air bubbles down there. You may notice that over here that's the spatula that I was using earlier. I want a bigger, heavier dollop, so I got a different tool. These things are, I don't know, what were these, $6? You can get them on Amazon or at a local retailer. They are really handy to have the kind of a proper tool for what you're trying to accomplish. One of the things I want to do is ultimately get the top of this thing smooth, or at least reasonably smooth. And I try to get better at it each time we do this dish because it makes for a nicer presentation. And as I said, you know, it's funny when a young man never outgrows his childhood nickname. That friend, I think, is really going to enjoy this, even though they still call him the baby of the family. So I think that's good enough. Let me see if there's anything else we want to scrape because I don't want to lose this goodness. So that's going on top. And that, my friends, is going to be a thing of beauty. So now I'm going to just drop the saran over. The lid goes on. I've got the bath that is warm water. I don't want it hot. And this is a water bath technique. It's going to be in the oven, which I have set at 300 degrees. So this is first going into the water bath. The water should come up about halfway on the terrine, or roughly to where we filled the terrine. So again, I mean, this pan is a $6, $10 pan. You can get it at Walmart. You can get it any big box retailer. So let's end this, and then I'll put it in the oven. And we'll start that countdown. So I'm going to put it in. I'm going to remove the pan from the heat. Oven comes open. And this is a very gentle cooking method. That needs to come up to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. And I think it's going to take about 45 minutes. That's when I'm going to start checking. I don't have an instant thermometer. I still use the old analog. It works just fine. And if necessary, we'll put it back in for another 15 minutes or so. So I'll see you when we're prepared to take it out. Let me also describe that we won't get to see it today. I'll let it cool to room temperature on the stove or on the counter, and then it will go into the refrigerator and chill overnight so that we can prepare it for basically for service. So my timer just went off on the seafood terrine. I want to check the temp, and if it's up to 135 degrees, how my glasses look. Yeah, I'll be able to see. That's what'll happen with the water bath. So I'm going to remove the cap to the terrine. Have 135 set on the thermometer. Let's insert it and give it a couple of seconds to come up. Would you like to take a look at the thermometer? Because it just touched 135, which is the goal temperature that I had in mind. So at this point, I'm going to turn off the oven, and I'm going to carefully remove the enamel pan with the terrine in it. And I want to actually just set it over here, have it cool down a little bit so I can remove the terrine without burning my hands in the water. So it comes out, and it will basically stay like that until it comes to room temperature, at which point I will carry it to the outside refrigerator. I'm going to weight this, and I'll show you some pictures of that, but honestly there's nothing much to see. The next exciting piece will be when we pull this thing out of the terrine tomorrow. And I can tell you, I can hardly wait. This is one of the best things that I think it's one of the best things I've ever cooked. It is so simple, the elements are so easy, and you know, I just want to say thanks again to Le Creuset and Mike Ruhlman for doing it, because I wouldn't have tried it without seeing those guys. And I hope maybe after watching me, you'll try it too. It's worth it. Trudy has pointed out that I'm in 3 outfits, and it really is just one day. We're actually preparing for a carnival parade over in Mobile, but I wanted to show you where we are with the terrine. I've taken it out of the enamel pan, taken it out of the water, and I'm weighting it. If you look here, there's actually a ceramic plate, and the idea is to use the weight and help remove any of the air pockets inside of the terrine. We're almost to room temperature. Once it gets to room temperature, I will take it and I will put it in the refrigerator, and that will be there overnight. So just thought you'd kind of be interested. I don't always make my own chili though. See you in a little while. The seafood terrine has been in the refrigerator overnight, and I pulled it out. As you can see, the weights stayed on, and the idea is to compress any air pockets out, and it makes for a tighter presentation. So I'm going to remove those. There is a plate which is used to separate the cans from the terrine, and that will get removed. And what I'm left with now is simply discovering the edges of the saran. I'm going to need my glasses to do that. And then we'll withdraw the terrine. Oh my, but this looks good.
And the purpose of the saran is simply to help you get it out, correct?
That is correct. And here it comes. I'm going to need a scissor to remove the saran from our terrine. I gotta tell you, my mouth is watering. This smells just so good. The fragrances are wonderful. So at this point,
And now you just flipped it over.
I did flip it over. It is basically ready to go, except for one thing, and that is I am going to put a little chives over the top, and I have to taste it. But first I need to rinse off my fingers, so we can stop this right now. So just a few chopped chives, which I'm going to put over the top, because I like the look of it. It doesn't, I suppose it adds a mild onion flavor. And now I want to taste. This has actually turned out very pretty, but I'm going to just take a small slice off of an end. And if you want to take a look at that, you can see there's crab, there's scallop. This is just beautiful. I'm going to take that little piece right there, and that is going to be my taster to make sure that this is good enough to take to a birthday party. If it isn't, I'll eat it myself. Oh. That's just wonderful. It is, how can it be rich and assertive with the fishiness and so delicate at the same time? That's just delicious. That's going to go. We're not going to have to take cocktail weenies. Anyway, that's the terrine. Only thing left is we will probably shift the plate to something a little more festive, but this is the way that it's going to be served, along with a little baguette slice. Hope you enjoyed this. I hope I've broken this down into simple steps, and I hope that maybe someday soon we can get together and cook.